This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, so I'm just under a year into this. So well, I have interesting background. I've had a lot of neck and back pain due to shattering my spine in
Ooh,
2004. So I have a lot of titanium in my neck. Um, and So for most of my career pre-COVID, I was a travel. I'm a remote worker. I've been remote since 2008. That's how cool I was. I was in it before it was even a thing. So
I was
so
I
I,
was
I
remote in 2008. Cool your chest, Sparky.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
People
no,
like,
it's
you
just so
what?
many of my
Work from home?
so many of my coworkers that live in our headquarter offices in Seattle and Atlanta. This was like such a shock to not do that. And I was like, I didn't see home office for 3 years. I was just on the road in the sales team. Um, so
Yeah.
anyway, all of that to say, like, I was used to neck and shoulder pain due to the titanium, and then I didn't travel anymore due to COVID, but the pain just kept going up, and we couldn't figure out what it was. We did full orthopedic workups. We were trying to figure out whether some hardware was broken. I'm in Baltimore, so I was working with Johns Hopkins, and then ultimately it was in June of last year where I started to have saddle anesthesia. I was losing sensation right around the groin and all of that, and down my legs. It was I mean, it was emergency room level because I couldn't pass urine. It was scary. And so again, they
Yeah.
were going really deep trying to figure out like what's going on with your neck, what's going because I had a broken neck and I had a lot of hardware. Everything kept going up here, and I'm thankful they were going up here because it was at that time when they did it with contrast. They saw a 7.5 centimeter lesion on my spinal cord, and it was the granulomas. Um, so that's when they started to say, okay, well, let's get you on a prednisone course. We'll try to bring the inflammation down because all of what I was feeling was basically my spinal cord swelling inside of my column. And then they were able to identify it definitively because then they saw that my lymph nodes had lit up in a PET scan in my lungs. So when they did the biopsy of my lung lymph nodes, they were like, "Yep, nope, this is sarcoidosis." There was that scary 48-hour period where they're like, "It could also be metastatic cancer," because of the way your lung lymph nodes lit up, and then they saw the granulomas. So because of the diagnosis, then I think at that point it was August. They started me on infusions of Remicade, infliximab, in December. I've been on that since. I kind of did the 2 week, 4 week, 6 week, 8 week. I actually had my fifth one just yesterday. I felt improvement in my feet, so I definitely identify with that feet pain, but it has kind of moved up to my quads. They're always like itchy and painful, and then the continuation of like if you wore one of those support braces from like Costco, like the workers wear, like I feel that sort of tension and pain around my abdomen, even though obviously physiologically nothing's there. It's just all the signals getting messed up here. So the hope is I'm going to do at least four more fusions through the rest of this year, infusions through the rest of this year, and then we're just going to kind of review um, to see what we need to do. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still sort of baby into this as I understand it more because I had 16 years of thinking about the broken titanium and stuff in my neck that I've always been orthopedic with my pain, and now I have this new interesting facet with neurological. So that's me.
Just out of curiosity, um, was the involvement in the back in the spinal cord, is that around the titanium insertion?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That was the interesting light bulb because go figure, it's Hopkins. They had a lot of research. My neurologist had just finished a study about traumatic spinal injuries or TBIs, kind of weakening the blood barrier, and then that's why sometimes it's been showing up. And so yeah, it was exactly around my my original injury.
Okay, so what my experience is, I had a herniated belly button, and I had it repaired. And every time I got a PET scan, it lights up. And my trouble started about 2 years after that operation. So I also had a motor vehicle accident, and the symptoms that I had were immediately following that. So I've had sarcoidosis for probably positively diagnosed with a biopsy for 13 years, probably more like 35 years. I look back and look at, oh, that could have been sarcoidosis, that could have been sarcoidosis, that could have been, all these weird things, one-off things that were happening. But, as you probably know from talking to your doctors and the research, they don't know what causes it. But one thing they do know is that P. acnes, which is a bacteria on your skin, has been implicated as one of the possible antigens. Okay? So you had surgery, they opened you up, and P. acnes is already on your skin. I know they do the betadine and they try to keep it clean as much as possible, but it's possible for something to get in there and start a little infection, and that could be kicking off a round of sarcoidosis, whether you had it previously like I did and then something comes along and reactivates it. But that is something to, I wasn't surprised when you said it was near the injury site, because it's very common with like shoulder replacements to get a latent P. acnes infection, and it can just wreak havoc on your system because it's very hard to treat.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I broke my neck initially with a diving accident in 2004. I was overall pretty good with them. That was only when I was 20, so I kind of bounced back quick, and all of that fused well. But then in 2016, I had a herniated disc immediately above the previous fusion point, and so they had to go back in. So I've actually had 2 operations in and around C5, C6, C7, and T1, and it was pretty soon after the 2016 operation that I just had this continuous pain. It also happened to be right when I was traveling a lot more. I was doing 90,000 miles domestic in the United States. And so I just sort of thought my pain was because I'm sleeping at Hilton hotels and I'm on Delta flights all the time. And then, of course, COVID happened and everything. I mean, that does it too. But then when COVID came and I wasn't traveling anymore, I was home for the most I've ever been home, and the pain was still there and still increasing. We were trying dry needling, acupuncture, physical therapy, OT, everything we could, and it just was still building. So I have a pretty high pain tolerance. I think all of us end up getting with some, but when it's still there, it was hard to cope with. And I obviously wanted to avoid narcotics. That's when we started to just try to see what else was going on, and then ultimately got the confirmed diagnosis August of last year.
Okay. So this is for Kim and for Jim. If you guys want to go into your chat window and put your email, you'll get a reminder every month that, hey, here's the call. It's on the second Wednesday of the month. Here's the link. And you don't have to find it randomly on Reddit anymore. So if you like that, our support group will go and add you to the distribution list, and you'll get an update every month. Thanks, Joe. Sorry about that. All right, let's hear from Kim. Hi, Kim. How are you?
How am I? I'm okay.
That's always a dangerous question on calls like this, isn't it?
Yes, right. I have my.
You want me to tell the truth?
No, well, at least I know you won't. You won't. If I, with other people, if I say I'm doing okay, they're like, "Oh, you're healed, great," and then it's like, "No, I'm okay for the day," and then I'll see what happens tomorrow.
You just re-aggravated my trauma with my father. I had a really bad motor vehicle accident in 2020, and he was like 85 at the time, and I had an outsized reaction from my sarcoidosis, put me on prednisone and fatigue, and lost
Yeah.
for 2.5 years of my life, pretty much. But he would every once in a while just come on. Are you better yet? You look okay. Are you better yet? I'm like, no, not yet.
So,
It's gonna
yeah,
let
I
me know
was.
when the ride's over. It hasn't told me yet.
Right. Yeah, I know. So yeah, actually, I was in Baltimore. JT, I'm from Baltimore. And but I live in New York City. But was with my parents, and my dad is 88 and kind of high maintenance. And at one point, I finally
Aren't
say,
they all?
Dad, I am disabled. I don't walk. I walk only a little bit better than you do. So I can't jump up and get things for you the way I used to, and I can't. Like he asked me yesterday, he called and said, did you remember such and such thing?" I said, "When did you ask me?" "Oh, 2 weeks ago." I'm like, "I don't remember yesterday." So if you need an answer, get it when he give it to you. Don't
I
wait
don't
2 weeks,
remember what I had for dinner.
right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah, but it's yeah.
something else you
No, go
just
ahead.
mentioned that was a very common experience. My dad was a big walker.
Mm.
He and mom used to love going out on walks for miles and miles and miles. So during the pandemic, I was having my flare up and I was not doing well. I had a lot of fatigue and myopathy from the prednisone and we go for a walk and I'm the one tapping out.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we need to turn around. I'm done. I'm 55 and he's 85. I'm like, this is wrong.
Yes, it doesn't feel right. Yeah, we exchange, conversation about our bowels, and I used to be the young person rolling my eyes, and now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm that person now. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's been a
So
heck of a
what
time.
favors has sarcoidosis done for you lately?
Oh my God. So it's looking like the treatment for the prednisone. I got cataract, and
Hmm.
I didn't. I now know that there are three kinds of cataracts, and one kind can be caused by prednisone. I had an eye exam in on Halloween, and the woman did not. She said, "I see something on your macula. You need to see a retina specialist." So I go to the retina specialist 3 weeks later. He goes, "I can't see your macula because of all these cataracts." And then by January, I was functionally blind. I was what they call a two-finger patient, which is they hold up two fingers and you guess which one. So I had two cataract surgeries in March, and it's weirdly miraculous because I've worn glasses since I was 7, and now I can just like walk around without my glasses. I only had them now because I wanted to make sure I could read everybody's names. But so that's been amazing. I visited my parents for a week for my dad's 88th birthday. So I came, and I knew to like build in some rest when I came back, but it's also getting close. But I did my first public talk in 3 years. um my mentor retired, and she's like, "I know you probably can't come, but I really would like you to speak." So I decided to go, and it was great. But I didn't, it was also mobbed, and now I've been worried about having COVID because it's also allergy season, which are the same symptoms as the new variant. So I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
got a piece, the last
Is
10
this
is
COVID or is it SARS?
right. But I have my infusion on Friday, and I am so tired. I went for acupuncture yesterday, and I was so tired I could barely get up on the table. Like I like put myself up, and then I scooted myself over, and I said, "This could take a little bit because I just can barely move. Even rolling over was painful and exhausting and whatnot." So I feel a little better this morning. I'm just it's yeah I'm just crawling around right now, but. Um,
So obviously your eyes. Do you have sarcoidosis anywhere else in your
so
body?
so I don't have sarcoidosis in my eyes. The cataracts seem to have been from the prednisone.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I was on pretty heavy prednisone for a good year. And I was really mad
Oof,
because I had just gotten off
sorry.
I had tapered off the prednisone, and then like a few months later, the cataracts kind of grew like crazy. So I have neurosarcoidosis, and I've probably had it. You had clearly, Joe. You have not Joe. You have a narrative for yours. So I was officially diagnosed in August of 2020. But I'd been complaining for more than 15 years
Hmm.
about the extreme fatigue, muscle weakness. I was told it's because I was fat. I joined the gym. I was taking kickboxing classes, and then would have days that I would get to work and have to sit for an hour before I could get up again. But somehow that, it's all weight related. Or the best one was, oh, you're getting older. I'm like, I know people who are 90 who can lift their arm. What the hell are you talking about? So, but I finally found an internist who was like, okay, I don't know what's wrong with you. I am going to, next time, whatever this is flares up, just come to me and I will refer you out everywhere. And so, um, 3 weeks before New York shut down, I went to her. Well, a month before that, she referred me out. And then a week before the shutdown, they said, we think you have MS, but we need to do we got an MRI. We need to do a lumbar puncture, an MRI with contrast, whatnot thing, and then the city shut down. So I was just on hold
Yeah.
for many months. I had a fat. They did the great thing is that they referred me to an amazing MS specialist who was like, this would be the craziest case of MS I've ever seen, but she literally monitored me every day until facilities opened up and I could get tested. And then she referred me to somebody who specializes in misdiagnosis between MS and neurosarcoidosis. So I have sarcoidosis associated myopathy. I have some of the things that Joe was talking about, the kind of paralysis, from like, it feels like it changes. It's from hips down, and it feels like somebody has like a balled up sock in both my feet. I have a lot of instability, and a lot of kind of just pain up and down my legs kind of constantly. My partner said, why don't you just call it pain? Because I was going into these long descriptions of people, because it's pain. You feel pain. I'm like, okay, somehow it
No,
felt
there's
better.
different kinds of pain. There's hot
Yes,
pain, there's burning
yes.
pain,
So,
there's
so
pulsing pain, there's
exactly. So at one point I told somebody, I said, you know how your cell phone feels when it's on vibrate, it's in your hand? That's how my legs feel all the time. So yeah, but the biggest things are the fatigue and the muscle weakness and whatnot. So I'm on uh what do you call it? Oh my God. A medication I take a lot of medications, but I've been taking more of the medication for fatigue because I'm trying to keep my job. My job has been really good and accommodating, but I still have to do things. I
you just got
know.
to get it on your schedule.
Yes, exactly.
So,
I guess
are you familiar with the spoon concept?
yes, yes. I've gone through the whole
Yeah.
silverware drawer this past, 2 weeks.
Some
So
days you don't even need a drawer. You only need one spoon because
one
that's all you
spoon.
get.
Yes. So, I guess the good thing is I also I'm an academic. I teach English and Africana studies here in New York. But I also quilt, and I had two quilts accepted for a show in South Carolina. And luckily I have
Nice.
not for a long while. I still have a lot of neuropathy in my hands, but so the quilting is not technically not as good as it used to be, but I can still do some. So that was exciting um, that was
Well,
something. So,
congratulations. That's great. I don't have any artwork going in the show. So,
well, look, my mother was on PBS for her artwork, so there's always some.
wow, look at you. You go.
So I always tease people. I say I have a second job as my mother's hype woman, so I'm like, organizing things for her and whatnot.
So how long do you think you have had sarcoidosis?
I think I have had it since 2005, if not at least, because that was
And
when I mean,
initially it was primarily fatigue.
yeah, And you know, that kind of thing when you have like unspecified fatigue and they kind of write it off. And I was like, no, no, I've been tired. I've had allergies all my life.
Maybe it's
So I know,
fibromyalgia.
yeah, right. It's oh this, it's that. And luckily, I guess Hopkins did that diagnostic published diagnostic criteria for sarcoidosis associated myopathy literally 2 months after they said they thought I had MS. And this doctor had read the study. He actually sat down with me, read through the study with me, showed me how my MRIs looked very much like the MRIs published in that study.
Yep.
And
That's
now, you know,
very fortunate timing.
yeah. And now the treatments, you know, they've, you know, I'm not dead. I didn't realize how bad off I was until now in the past several months. Doctors have said to me, oh, you know, pretty much you're lucky to be here. So I was
Wow.
hospitalized like 4 times that year. Um, yeah, it was crazy. My internist like, oh yeah, if you'd been somewhere with not near a research center, you wouldn't be here. But you wouldn't be here now. You were, you know. So guess I'm glad they didn't say that while it was going, because it was bad enough taking mega doses of prednisone. I have a lot of reactions to medications, and so I had to go on the first dosage of prednisone by myself in a New York apartment when everything was shut down. So it
Jeez.
was quite scary.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So this is. The doctor. I had last this past year was great and then bad, and so the doctor's been working with me to work my job to keep my job, and he's like, okay, but you have to get used to a slower life, and that's just been really hard. I mean, your body makes it
Yeah.
easy in some ways,
Conserve your
but
spoons.
yeah, but it's almost impossible to plan ahead. I like all everybody who makes a plan. I'm like, all plans are contingent until I see if I can get out of bed that day, or so.
Yeah.
Um, and I used to be a kind of go 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 kind of person, so this is a whole new thing.
Up and smell the roses.
Not with these
All right.
allergies. Joe, I'm nosy. Where are you in Baltimore?
uh, I'm in Hamilton, so I'm in the northeast side.
Okay.
So just on the edge of the Beltway before you get up into Baltimore County.
Yeah.
But we're still in
Yeah.
the city.
Yeah. I actually grew up in Northwest Baltimore, just like a mile in from the county border. But my parents are
Oh, okay.
now,
Yeah.
yes, are now like in Falls, the off of Falls Road, in Mount Washington, near
Yeah.
Mount Washington.
Of course. Of
So.
course. Yeah. No. The funny flip is I was born in New York in Mount
Oh,
Sinai in Manhattan. My parents lived in Flushing, so I think we just
oh. So
passed each
yes,
other
you passed each other on the road.
On 95.
Yeah.
on 95.
Hey, Jim, how are you doing?
Let's see, I had to find the mute button. I'm doing fine. It's nice to see Joe and Kim. I don't think I've met them before. Hi. But I've spent a lot of
We're
time
both.
with Kevin and Kathleen, so um, I don't feel like spouting off my whole history again. So I'll abbreviate it. Uh, I was diagnosed in 2019, and it was basically in my heart walls, and I had uh, atrial fibrillation AFib because of it. But the good news is I haven't had AFib for 2 years after taking prednisone for a year, which I will never do again. But I'm on methotrexate, and that seems to be working, and it doesn't have any side effects. So I have a specialist in Santa Clara. I'm with the Kaiser Permanente group down here in the Bay Area. And he says, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's where I'm at. I feel very lucky. I've got all my activities back, I'm full strength on my cycling and swimming and stuff like that. So one of these days I'm supposed to have a PET scan, maybe next year, and see if if anything lights up again. But I can't believe that that disease is still eating me up because I don't feel sick anymore. So I feel very lucky, and I listen to other people's stories, and boy, it's really a, a full disease for everyone. So, how about you, Kevin? Have you told everybody how you're doing?
I have not. I was trying to go around the room and check in with everyone.
Okay, well,
But I
good.
guess I'll give everyone an update. Um, so I've had sarcoidosis for over 15 years, confirmed about 13 years ago. They found it in my right ring finger and scratched their head and said, carry on. They did a lung biopsy and it was definitely in my lungs and it had been there for a while and it wasn't symptomatic, no medication, 10 years of honeymoon. Everything's normal. I get in a motor vehicle accident and 3 days later I'm in the hospital in AFib and they don't know why. And after the whole battery of tests for cardiac disease, I should have studied for some of them because I failed all of them. They put a pacemaker ICD in April of 2020, and about 2 weeks later, we did a PET scan, and that confirmed my sarcoidosis, which was in my lungs. Somehow got a little annoyed and made a party in my heart after the motor vehicle accident. And that's what was causing the inflammation, causing the arrhythmias and the distress and the fatigue and all of that. So I started on prednisone, which was way worse than anything I had with sarcoidosis. Was on 40 milligrams of prednisone for about 9 months and then tapered it off over about 6 months. And getting off of it was way worse than going on it. Having all kinds of pain and fatigue and malaise and brain fog. And it was 2.5 years of hell. More recently, I moved to Florida. I moved into a first floor apartment right on the water in Naples. Beautiful location, great, just loving life. And then the hurricane came and wiped it all away. Since then, I've been doing a lot of work. I started with the owner on the building. We demolished the whole downstairs, did a bunch of framing. And I'll be honest, in the beginning, I really felt terrible after 8 hours in the Florida heat working like a 20-year-old. But by the end, I was a lot fitter, about 20 pounds lighter, and feeling better about myself. And then got involved in another project and renovated a salon and spent about 8 weeks there. And all of a sudden, I have people coming into the salon going, "Oh, who did this great work?" And they give me my number. And so I've gotten lots of referrals and I have my own little handyman business down here now instead of retiring, it's been nice. I'm having a great time meeting lots of people. And then the other thing I started more frequently, consistently, is working out. So I've started weight training. The person that I did the salon with and my partner in the handyman business is a personal trainer, just part time, and he has me in the gym kicking my butt. And I hate it when it's going on, but when I'm done, I feel better and I've got more energy and the fatigue's just about completely gone, except when I'm tired from working out. But I've noticed a marked improvement in my physical capacity and feeling and whatnot. I still have a lot of pain from arthritis, from the sarcoidosis, but it's more tolerable now with better strength. And I'm making do. So I've learned a lot of things along the way, did a lot of research trying to convince my lawyers that the motor vehicle accident was either the direct cause or a significant exacerbation, which led to the loss of 2.5 years of my life and fatigue and malaise and the rest of it. And we just put our demand letter into the opposing counsel. So we're going to be either settling or going to court with Uber and the driver. And we'll see where that goes. Um, so yes, I'm doing much better now, but um, I become much more sensitive to the fact that you have good days and you just got to keep mindful and present to what's working. So for me, what I see what works is I have a very simple diet. I eat lots of vegetables, usually roasted, but in all different ways. Lean meats and smaller quantities than I used to eat. Like I typically do 4 ounces of protein in a dinner, and the rest is vegetables or rice and sweet potatoes and things like that. So it's a very clean diet. It's all organic. I use absolutely no corn oil or vegetable oil or Crisco or anything like that. It's all olive oil or butter. Um, so the diet made a big impact, and there's a lot of science on this. And if you want to convince yourself that this is worth pursuing, I would. I'll put it in the chat. But there's a woman. Her name's Dr. Walls, and she's a medical doctor, and she got diagnosed with an advanced form of MS. And MS is one of those incurable, predictable diseases. They can pretty much tell you how many months you have left before you can't walk anymore, and how many months that you have left before you can't speak anymore, and you can't lift your arm. And it's terrible. And she tried all the Western medicine and gave up, and did a bunch of research and started her own special diet. And she's walking and biking and has back in practice and is sharing her results and her beliefs on why it helped her get better. So diet's definitely a huge part of it. And then there's little things you can pick up along the way in terms of, for me, intermittent fasting did a lot of good for my body and my energy levels. And that means you have a restricted eating window where you'll eat for 4 to 8 hours a day and you don't eat the rest of the time. And your body just calms down and gets into repair mode and has not much to do, so it can handle more things. And it's great for the weight. It's great for inflammation. It's great for my brain fog. And that is something that I did for a long time. And now I am learning that I really need to cycle it. So go in for 6-8 weeks and then go to 3 meals a day for a couple of weeks just to get the body confusion going. But I have, it's remarkable where I am now versus 2 years ago. I never would have believed I'd get back to this point. And it's been support groups like this where I've picked up a lot of tips and pointers. Johns Hopkins has a sarcoidosis support group, just so you guys know. And I'm sure if you're in the program, they give you updates to it. I found that to be very useful. Cleveland Clinic and FSR also have regular support groups. Who else is out there? Kathleen, you remember anyone else?
Life and Breath.
Life and Breath. That's also a very good foundation for sarcoidosis.
Yeah, actually, they've got one coming up about prednisone. Sorry.
What's that?
They've got one coming out about prednisone and how to get away from the prednisone and how you could make it work for you. Let me see, what was the exact name of it? Preventing Prednisone Adverse Effects. That's tomorrow night.
That's interesting.
Tomorrow night at 8.
Too late for me now, but something good to know if we meet somebody on a support group where they're struggling with prednisone right now. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Kathleen, how are you?
I'm struggling. So my name is Kathleen. I'm from Long Island, New York. Definitively diagnosed with sarcoidosis 22 years ago as of July 23rd of this year. So that's when they took a piece of my lung out. And previous to that, the doctor swore that I had cancer. So I told him it wasn't cancer, and guess what? It was just a gut reaction that I didn't believe it. So I've tried almost everything out there. I'm still on prednisone, but I'm losing weight due to the intermittent fasting. So I started out at a very low, and then I've just gone up. So now I guess we finished dinner around 5:30. I won't eat again until it's probably lunchtime next, other than water. So I've lost 20 pounds in a month and a half. So it's working out to be about a half a pound per day. So I got another 40 pounds to go to be at my goal weight. We'll see if I can make it there. I'm a little older, so yeah, women have a lot more difficulty losing weight, a lot more. So our hormones are all crazy
I've
too.
heard. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is a common experience.
Yeah, it's all about hormones. So I've tried just
The
about
big
everything.
thing down here in Naples. Have
Say
you
that
ever heard
again?
of hormone replacement therapy?
Yeah.
The latest craze down here. All the women are doing it.
Yeah.
It's a pellet that
Mm.
they inject into your gluteus maximus,
Yeah.
and it releases a blend of hormones over a 3-month period.
Hmm.
And then they do your blood work, and then they tweak the pellet every 3 months to keep you in the right range for hormones. And it has a lot of beneficial effects.
Is that covered under insurance?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, so you knew I was supposed to start IVIG, right? I'm sorry, what, Kevin?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
So that got stopped by the hematologist because my inflammatory system is just way too high, even on everything. So doing Simponi Aria now, and I'll know in about a month whether or not it's working. We'll get the blood test. That's it. I'm just struggling. I'm very, very tired. Don't want to do anything. I'm just like, bleh.
Mm.
So
Well,
I get to
thanks for
see
showing
Dr.
up and supporting
Morgenthau
us.
soon. Yeah, I get to see Morgenthau soon. So I'll see him on the 17th going into the city. Should I come meet you, Kim? I'll be at Mount Sinai on the 17th. Are you anywhere near there? Yep, you got to unmute, Kim. I do it all the time.
I may have also messed up my AirPods or whatever these things are. I'm actually near the north tip of Central Park,
Oh, okay.
so
Okay.
further into the city.
All right. Well, one day that's nice. I'll just come in and meet you.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody saw, but if you're close to New York or you're in the surrounding area, we're doing. So in 2020, everything changed, as we all know. So I haven't seen most of our sarcoidosis brothers and sisters that are in the surrounding area. So if you hit me up on Facebook, we're actually meeting at a restaurant in June just to get back together again and be able to be with each other. This way, and that's what I think is so good with this is that you have somebody who says, I understand, because our spouses, our children, our parents could not possibly understand what we're going through. And I know each one of us are different, but we all are very similar, just different snowflakes. So if you want to meet in person, come on down to dinner. Hey, you gonna fly home to Long Island to come, Kevin? Come on, Kevin, fly in. All right, you gonna drive?
Yeah, I'm driving back to Philly on Friday.
Okay.
I'm back for a couple of soccer games.
Nice.
It's time with the family.
Good. And I think that's all with me.
So, sorry about that. I dropped off. For some reason, my phone disconnected. So just dialed back in.
No problem.
I was going to say before I lost connection that I put a link to Dr. Terry Wall's TED Talk. And she also has a website now, and it's called the Walls Protocol, and she's trying to commercialize it all. But that's the message that kind of shifted my dietary consumption.
Yeah, it's super interesting and encouraging to hear because actually, you know, prior to my Sark confirmed diagnosis, I was getting into intermittent fasting. I was like on a track. I was losing weight. I was in a pretty good space at right around 220, which was 20 pounds down from December of 2021. I was down to 220, from 240 down to 220. Um, and then of course, once they started me on that prednisone kick, right back up, and it's been this is the second time the Walls protocol has been mentioned, so that's not just kismet. There's definitely must be something there. So I'm gonna definitely dig into that because I actually, I mean, I definitely concur that intermittent fasting was working. Trying to see if I can get that back to also cut weight and then see if I can get better with the walks. We got a new dog, Lumi, the one you heard roofing earlier. We got her in August of this past year, and being an athletic breed, I've now had to get used to taking on walks. Otherwise, our furniture and stuff will suffer the regalia of an 85-pound big dog that wants to just go, go, go. So if she's bouncing off the walls, so I got to walk her just to wear her out, which has helped me kind of push through a little bit, which I think is, I've seen myself go from, just a quarter of a mile, just around a couple of blocks, to then like a mile, to then 2 miles,
Wow.
and just slowly stepping it up. Now I'm trying to do the other side of the neighborhood, which is a little bit more uphill. So we're working it in where we can. But I
So
think,
in that process, have you seen anything like a um, I don't have the right words for it, but your mind has a big role in how you feel.
yeah,
And when I was on the downslope, where any physical exertion I did, I felt an immediate fatigue, and then I had like a hangover the next day, where I just felt
yeah,
like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. And it's like your body's trying to train you and teach you what it thinks you need.
yeah,
And so it was like this downward spiral where I didn't feel like walking. I didn't feel, but then I pushed myself and I was able to wind it back the other way, where going for longer walks, you might feel some bad days the next day.
yeah,
It's like that exertion hangover,
yeah,
where you just
yeah,
spend so much of your energy that, it just makes up for it the next day and just gives you no spoons.
yeah,
But you build and build and build, and I've come out the other side where, I do 50 burpees as a warm up to work out,
wow, yeah,
and I couldn't
yeah,
do 5 when I started.
yeah. No, I think you're right. I think the one, tracking it, having like a Garmin watch and being able to see and everything has helped me. Like I'm seeing like, wow, I did, like I'm not looking at time as much. Like I'm not trying to like pace myself, but if I just look at distance, at
Hmm.
least for me, I'm like, I'm doing more and I feel okay. I can go drop off the kids at school, come home, take Lumi, go for the walk, and then still get back to my desk and get to my work and stuff without missing anything. And you're right, you're right. It definitely has helped to kind of mentally realize I can push through, I can get to that, and then sort of, to your point, untrain the downward spiral part and sort of train the
Yep,
upward
that's
bit.
exactly what it seemed like. Yep.
Yeah, and then knowing what I need therapeutically to kind of get through it. If it's like, for me, a super hot shower that helps the heat, humidity, I don't know, like that helps to kind of put, especially when it was cold. And in
Yeah.
Baltimore, we have these schizophrenic days. We had one just a couple days ago where it was like 75 during the day and then dropped to 40. I'm like, I don't need climate change within morning to evening. Like it could
Yeah.
go, you know, that stuff just kills me when because I also have the titanium, so I already have like the titanium implant issue, and I have arthritis in my spine because of the advanced wearing and the degeneration. So I already have, I know I have levels of orthopedic pain that it's just gonna be there because I jumped in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
But then the Sark, additionally with the legs and everything else, is another thing. But to your point, it definitely feels better when I push through and kind of feel successful about something with my, my health as I'm going through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, if you have any opportunity, kind of resistance or weight bearing,
Okay.
like really working out, just get the muscles moving, because that does so much good for your body and helps. So, for me, it seems like, when I was in the middle of it, in the funk and the flare up, I just couldn't generate doing that. And I couldn't even picture it. And the thought of it, my body was like physically reacting to the thought of going downstairs and working out.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's like such a positive reinforcement that like that's part of my life now. This is
Got it.
intermittent fasting and clean eating. I'm going to be working out when I'm not physically working, doing something else. So just sticking with it and going through the speed bumps. I'm speaking from my experience. Like,
Sure.
that's what the way it occurred for me. And it was so bad. Like, I literally had 500 steps some days. And that's
Wow.
all I
Yeah.
could do.
Yeah.
And my dad would sit there and look at me like, "Are you better yet?" I'm like, "No, Dad, I'm going to go take a nap." Again, yes. Yes, I know it's my second one today.
Yeah.
And, so part of it's, holding out a branch of hope. Like, keep up the good work. There's room on the other side. But just with a word of caution, know your body, and, if it's not getting better, then try something else.
Yeah.
It's snowflake stuff. Everybody's different. I'm just trying to share what kind of worked with me.
Yeah. No,
I'll say that
absolutely.
I'll say that when I was really bad last fall and had to come to Jesus meeting for my neurologist, and he tested me, he goes, "I know you say you're not that you can barely move, and it's true." I was like, "I have to watch to prove it." He said, "But it's amazing that you haven't become deconditioned," and that was partly because right as that when the week when New York shut down and people are calling everybody they knew in New York, a friend of mine called me, and I told her, I said, "Look, she knew about my long-term medical struggle. I said, they're saying maybe it's MS, they don't quite know, I'm having these issues." And she said, "I'll call you back in 2 days." And she called me back with the Tai Chi program, and she worked with me every day. And her Tai Chi instructor who trained in Chen Village, which is the home of Tai Chi, he worked with me once a week for a year and a half to develop programs
Wow.
for spinal health. And so even though I was not able to get out of bed so much, I could do the seated Tai Chi, which I did do every day, even when I was super, super tired. And the
Good for
neurologist was
you.
like, "You need to stick with that Tai Chi because your balance is okay. My muscles were in pretty decent shape." So yeah, I've been very, very fortunate in people who have just extended themselves to me. He wouldn't take any money, and I know he makes a decent amount in
Wow.
his private consultations with people. Sadly, he's not sadly, good for him. He's gone to Chinese medicine school, so he's not doing his online classes anymore. But
Wow, that sounds amazing.
evidently he has a secret plan that he wants me to train in the level 1 uh, Tai Chi. I'm like, it's too much memorization because you have to memorize all the meridians and all this other stuff, and so I can barely remember
Oh, that
Chi
brings
1
the
through.
brain fog. I have no short-term memory anymore. It's
Yeah,
bad.
I when I
I
did
don't
the
know. I don't know if it's from COVID. I don't know if it's from Sark. I don't know if it's what it's
well
from, but
they did
it's completely different now.
a baseline kind of cognitive function exam with me, and so they give me the results, and they're like, "You're doing pretty well. The only thing that you really are showing a problem with is word retrieval." And I'm like, "I'm an English professor, so word retrieval is in fact
It's got to be a
something
core
that I am
competence.
concerned about."
Uh, All right. So, you guys have any questions? Any other comments?
I have a question for Kathleen, and this might be my terrible memory. I went to one meeting here, the month before the airing of insurance grievances, which I'm very sorry to have missed. But are you the one who had met with the company that's coming up with the drug, the sarcoidosis? Um, you're muted, and I apologize if I confused you with someone else.
No, that was me. I did come into the city and have a talk with the TYR
Yes.
group, and the CEO has a mild case of sarcoidosis. So it is phase 3. I mean, if you're interested, go to the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research and
Well,
type in.
evidently I'm not eligible because you have to it's heart or lung. Or at least that's
Oh, okay.
what,
Okay,
so
and I got both. So
yeah.
but
Lucky
anybody that
thing
can,
you.
I know,
Yeah,
overachiever.
so
So,
yeah.
but yes, and I'm thrilled that they're in phase 3. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
even if it just helps, our tiredness
Yeah,
temporarily, because once they figure something out, I'm assuming they will go on from there.
yeah,
I thought with COVID we might see something because COVID is inflammatory. We're inflammatory. They start in
yeah.
lungs. We start in lungs. So I don't know. What's the problem here? Can everyone connect the dots besides us?
I know. I'm just like I keep looking at, like, long COVID research should have, implications for us.
Exactly. Exactly. So nothing yet.
No,
Nothing yet, but I'm thrilled that they're not giving up. They're
yeah.
going to continue as long as they possibly can, as long as people, as long as you want to be a test dummy. That's what I call myself.
Better than a crash dummy.
It's much
Maybe.
better than the crash one.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, but yes, I was. Yeah, I just told them how sarcoidosis changed my life, and it's
yeah.
definitely did. I believe personally that I've had sarcoidosis since about age 17, because then I
Wow.
was I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome,
Mhm.
extremely tired all the time,
Yeah.
and chronic fatigue and Epstein-Barr. Those were the
Ah,
two that I
yes.
was diagnosed with when I was 17. But funny, I've never, I'm still as tired, maybe a little bit more
Mhm.
since I'm going to be 59 soon. Mm. It's a big number. But yeah, I, I just wish they would find something for all of us besides
Yeah,
prednisone.
yeah.
One day. And
I,
they don't know if it's hereditary. I got 2 boys. I don't want to pass this thing on. Heck no.
I
Yeah, that's
talked to both of
definitely.
my boys about
Yeah, I have three. I've got a
oh wow.
9-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And
Oh,
so I've been
Wow.
trying to see whether this is because we've not seen this in our family lines on neither my
Mhm.
parents or neither of my parents' side have had that. I've even tried to see whether there was maybe a misdiagnosis of something
Mhm.
else that could be it, but like when my paternal grandmother had a little neuropathy in her foot, it was actually the diabetes.
Mm.
So that was. I don't think there was a misdiagnosed there, and ultimately that renal and all that. That's how she went. God rest her. But we haven't seen it anywhere else, so I have been interested to understand whether there's any sort of hereditary
Yeah.
calls or proteins that might be there, because it is just something I want my kids to be potentially aware of, and also to, I think, something all of us have realized, like a sensitivity to other people when they say they have pain or they're tired. Like
Mhm.
there's, like we said, there's a lot of different kind of pain. There's a lot of different kinds of fatigue,
Yeah.
mental fogginess and stuff like that. So like maybe giving space and grace for that. Um, but also just watching it. Now, I don't really see that in any of my kids currently because they're
Mhm.
off the walls as much as the dog. So I don't think I have that problem. But I want to
it.
be
Yeah, which
cautiously
is.
aware of it,
Yeah.
down the road for
I
sure.
mean,
well,
I didn't,
Yeah.
it was well into my diagnosis when I realized it was the snowflake disease, because I actually had a paternal aunt who had sarcoidosis, but lung sarcoidosis. And I remember when I was a kid, she would, kind of be grasping for air and say, "Oh, this sarcoidosis." I'm like, "What is this sarcoidosis that's bothering her?" And it never occurred to me to ask a doctor, like, could it be sarcoidosis? And mine is very different from her. Mine is neuro and hers is lung. But yeah. And then I have, like, my family grew up in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina. So I have a lot of lore and stories about how people
Mm.
died, but no real,
Yeah.
uh, so it,
So,
it
Joe, the
could go
best way I
back.
can explain it, it's like playing cards, right? And there's a genetic component in so much as you have the same genes as your mother and your father. And you don't have the same genes, you have a mix of the genes,
Yeah.
right? And so your kids have a mix of your genes and someone else's genes. So there's always a crapshoot as to whether you get that polymorphism, which is one of the things that it means you have a section of your genome that can get expressed two ways,
Hmm.
right? So that's just, you have that card or you don't. Second, you have your expososome, which is everything you're exposed to in your life. Did you grow up near chemical plants? Did you grow up near a refinery? Did you grow up near an asbestos plant or a beryllium plant, or stuff where they made stuff and there's exhaust and it's all within the EPA limits, but you're constantly breathing that stuff and it's falling on the ground and whatever. So what are you exposed to, and does that match what your susceptibility is? Right. So whatever was exposed to when it's set up shop in my body could be different from what you were exposed
Yeah.
to.
Mm.
My guess for you is you have that particular section in your genome that says P. acnes because of where it's growing.
So, I mean,
I
and
may have something
yeah.
that could be from formaldehyde,
Yeah. So,
because the only thing that made sense to me was we moved into a brand new house and my dad didn't want the walls painted because he was going to do it himself. So we slept in rooms with drywall for months. My brother has asthma and I have
we
sarcoidosis.
do
My
have the
brother has
same
something else.
but
He'll pay
I'm
to get
pretty
extra
convinced.
insulation in the walls, but he ain't paying to paint it.
So,
So there's that. And then there's also a genetic component. So they break it down into, the current thinking is two types of sarcoidosis. You have acute, which is you go out in the woods, you get something, and you come back and you start getting sweats, and the next day your lungs are burning or your chest feels like there's a tennis ball in there. You get this really acute reaction. And they go, "Oh, we did a biopsy of sarcoidosis, and we're going to see if it goes away. It go away by itself, or you get you a little prednisone, and you're fine." And you never hear from it again. And then there's another set of genome influences, which you have the chronic version. So mine started in my interstitial tissue. They found it in my ring finger, like in the space in between the tendon sheaths and whatever. And it got into my lungs, and then I had an accident, and it started spreading again around my body through my lymph node system, and it set up shop in my heart. For me, my theory is that when I was in the accident, my heart got concussed. Actually got concussed into my fibrotic lung, where my sarcoidosis is, and that stressed the heart. That causes inflammation, and it got mixed up with my sarcoidosis and caused granulomas in my heart. So that's kind of the synopsis of my research. And anything you can do to fight inflammation in your diet, your lifestyle, and your life hacks and all of that is going to serve you well. Whether it's intermittent fasting, or I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of yoga nidra. And I just put on my earbuds, lay back, and listen to this soft voice telling me to scan my body and relax. And it's just, it's just, for me, it does the trick. It helped me with my fatigue, and it helps me manage stress now. So part of the journey is just figuring out how to manage and listen to your body. So when you feel like I'm doing too much, I'm drinking too much, or I'm eating too many carbs, or whatever it is for you, you can just back off and get back to a stable state and get the best quality of life that you can.
Absolutely.
If you lose sight of that, it can come back and bite you, as mine did in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had a period after the hurricane where I didn't have air conditioning, I didn't have refrigeration, I was eating like shit, I was working hard, I'm in muck, and just overexerting myself trying to clean everything up as fast as I can because that stuff is toxic, it's corrosive, it's nasty, and I kind of wanted some of my stuff back. I saved some of it. But after like 3 weeks of that, I decided I was going to go play tennis and get a little normalcy. And my heart went into fibrillation and passed out and got a shock and brought me back to life. So that's where I picked up, like, I've really got to every day stay present and mindful of what I'm doing to my body.
Yeah.
And I continue to drink alcohol. And one of the reasons I eat so well and work out so much is so that I can continue to drink because I kind of like it. But I also know it's one of the most inflammatory molecules I can put in my body, so I'm kind of speaking out both sides of my mouth. But when I drink too much, I can feel it.
I'm glad
So
to know you're human with
after I
human
stop.
vices. So
So there's that. You got to live.
You do.
But
You do.
just do it in moderation and, you know, learn what it is and what you need to do to maintain it.
Yeah.
And manage it. And
Absolutely.
the rest is up to God. And
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, going to do whatever it's going to do. Like trying to peel an egg. Sometimes they come clean, sometimes a little bit at a time. It's just going to be the way it's going to be.
Exactly.
And you didn't do anything wrong. It's not like you
Nope.
did something wrong to get this or do something wrong to make it worse. It's just, you know, it is what it is sometimes.
And if I'm correct,
Yourself grace.
isn't the next meeting June 14th? Second Wednesday,
That's
right?
a very good question. Second Wednesday, yep.
All right. So it's June 14th.
is it the
Okay.
same room each
Okay.
time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because I
you
did
can use
have
the
it in
same
my
link each
calendar, but
time.
I didn't have the room, so I'll just put the link in my calendar and then
Okay.
Put the link in your calendar, make it recurring, and every time it pops
Yeah.
up, you can just click on it.
And as Kevin said, you're going to get an email to remind you.
Oh, great. Perfect.
It was very nice meeting both of you.
Nice meeting you guys as
Yeah.
well.
Nice meeting you.
So, nice
Thank
seeing
you.
you again. So
Appreciate
take
it.
care.
All right, best
Have
of
a
luck,
good evening.
everyone.
All
See you
right.
next week,
Take
next
care.
month.
Bye.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.